Hi everyone out there in the world of YouTube or wherever it is you may be checking out this video. And if it's just the first part or a clip, I suggest you stick around and watch the entire video because today's guest is sure to say something that's interesting and uplifting. But before I introduce her, let me say my name is Jacqueline Anderson, and of course everybody calls me Jackie. But back to today's guest. Not only is she a certified public accountant, she is also the immediate past president of the Atlanta chapter of NABA, which is the National Association of Black Accountants. So today's guest is Ms. Quesa Lowe. So thank you, Quesa, for taking time out of your day to do this interview. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Happy to do it.
Great. So first question, I always start each interview with this.
Okay.
What's your name as it's printed on your birth certificate?
Well, I have been going by Quesa for as long as I can remember, but on my birth certificate, very little known fact, it is actually Lowe Quesa. So I am Lowe Quesa Lowe.
LaQuesa, that's something new for me. I learned something right off the bat.
See, and I've known you for how many years? So
several years.
People know me as Quesa, so yeah.
Quesa, okay, great. All right, where are you from?
I am from Atlanta, actually. So one of the few folks that still live in Atlanta that's from Atlanta. So I know tons of transplants here. I feel like a little unicorn, but yeah, I'm actually from Atlanta. Yeah,
me included. Transplant, yeah. And it's very rare you meet somebody who was born here, grew up here, and still here in Atlanta.
Yep,
you one of the few. Okay, cool. So now you living in Metro Atlanta. Why did you ever leave? Is your whole family still here?
Well, I did leave for a little bit. So I'm originally from here. I moved to North Florida, right around kind of like ending elementary school, starting middle school. My mom got married, so my family moved down there. We were there for a few years. I came back to Atlanta in high school. And then I left again, actually, and went to school in Miami, at University of Miami for a little bit. So I've left on a couple of little short hiatuses. Apparently I like Florida, so I have most of my family's here in Atlanta, but I do have some family in Florida too.
Oh, that sounds like a nice little break or hiatus to take in Miami or in Florida. That's pretty cool.
It was an interesting time for sure.
I bet it was, right? Okay, so if you don't mind sharing, how old are you currently?
I'm 30, but I'll be 31 just in a couple months.
Okay.
So I'm rounding out 30 this year.
Gosh. Yeah. All righty. Going to new decade.
Listen, I'm ready for it. 30 Wonderland is what they're calling it these days. So I'm ready for it.
Grown woman.
Right. I've been waiting to say that to someone. Oh, baby girl, you'll learn one day.
So funny. Gotcha. All right. So jumping into the CPA exam experience and being an accountant. Do you remember or what age did you become a CPA, and were you initially licensed in Georgia since you spent some time in Florida?
I was definitely licensed in Georgia. That I know off top. Age, I got licensed in 2016, so it would have been around 26 when I originally got licensed. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you happen to know your state issue number?
I do. Let me cheat really quickly.
Well, at least you have it handy.
033222.
Gotcha. Certified, active
CPA, licensed in the state of Georgia. Absolutely. Claim it and own it.
Say that part again.
They claim it and own it.
That's right. I know you worked hard for it.
Yes.
You deserve it. So what college did you attend? What city and state was it in?
I started school in University of Miami. I was studying sports management because in my mind, I just was really going to be a sports agent. But neither here nor there. But I finished at Georgia State, actually. So I did undergrad there. It was dual degrees in finance and accounting. Okay. And then I did my master's there as well in information systems.
So your undergrad you majored in accounting, but your
accounting and finance.
Okay.
So, and then I did my master's in information systems. So a bit of a varied educational background. So degrees in a couple different things.
Okay, well, we'll circle back to that when we talk about taking the route of becoming a CPA.
Yes.
Keep that at the top of your mind, but we're gonna move on. So where do you currently work, or what experience do you have in, is it industry like corporate America, government, public accounting, or?
Yeah, so I would say definitely mostly industry. I did public for a little bit. Didn't love it, honestly. Didn't love it. But really started my career at Southern Company in their financial planning and analysis group. And so that was, for me at the time, was like the ideal way to start the career. It really leveraged all of my skills. There was some finance in there, some accounting in there, some systems work was in there as well. So did a ton of stuff there for that group and did that for like 3 or 4 years, maybe. And then I left actually to go to Home Depot, which is where I am now. So I'm a manager in their internal audit department. And so at Home Depot, our internal audit department also doubles as kind of like the management development arm of our company. So it was a very kind of structured, strategic program to kind of build leaders for the company. And so I've been doing that for the last 3 years and just super enjoy it.
Really? Oh, so you like that better than, more so than what you were doing with the systems, the technical aspect? I guess you were using your information systems degree and experience at Southern Company, but now you're doing more accounting?
I wouldn't say that, but I do like what I'm doing now because it's project based. I look at all different aspects of the business, but probably my favorite part about what I do now is the development aspect. So just being in a position to really kind of develop talent and also be in a position to be developed is really what led me to this role. And even at Southern Company, when I say kind of like systems, it was more around like modeling, like financial modeling, that type of work. So never really leveraged the core of the information systems degree, I feel like, but did leverage it to do financial modeling in that role. And even in my role now, I'll say that, you know, some of my projects have some accounting components to it, and a lot of my projects don't. It's always a nice little surprise when they do, but I feel like I've never really worked in a traditional accounting role.
Okay.
But I do feel like all the roles that I've had, I've gotten because I was a CPA. And I don't know that I would have gotten those same roles and had those same opportunities had I not been a CPA.
Oh, interesting. I'll follow up on that too. So since you had two different types of roles and not necessarily in accounting per se, what area do you hope to specialize in, or has this taken you in a different direction that you may not have thought about?
I think I'm kind of in a different direction. I don't know that there's any area that I really want to specialize in. Honestly, I think any role that I have the opportunity to like lead, or I have an opportunity to develop other people into leaders, I think I'm just always going to gravitate to roles like that. And I mean, that could really be in anything. Like right now, in my role, my project right now is supply chain based. So, I mean, I came into Home Depot not knowing a thing in the world about anything supply chain related. But I'm enjoying it because it's really not about supply chain. It's really about, you know, understanding a process, being able to think through that, being able to make recommendations out to the business, being able to work with other people. So I guess my specialty would probably be something around like risk consulting is what I would, I guess, consider my specialization.
Gotcha. It seems like working with people in some type of talent management and human resource development, kind of sorta. It seems like it's
sort of, probably not human resources directly, but something I could, you know, be kind of in influence, I would say. I think at heart, I'm definitely kind of just like a people interactive kind of person. So
very personable. Anyway,
I think so, but we can get a poll.
We'll see. Okay, we'll see what others think. Well, switching gears back to those days of studying when you were grinding, I'm sure you probably tried to forget all about those days, long gone. But if we can try to recall them.
Yes, we can definitely recall them. And I will say this to just anyone who just really feels like they just can't.
Mhm.
When I was studying for the CPA exam, I had a daughter. My daughter was probably around 4 when I was studying for the exam. I was in grad school. I was a grad assistant and I was working. I'm not going to say I was working full time. I was an intern. I had full time hours, but I didn't really have like a full time workload. But for 8 hours a day, I was at Southern Company, and studying. And so that just the fact that I was juggling all those balls at the same time is really what I remember most about my
You were able to do it successfully.
studying days. Yeah, so I feel like now when I have half as much going on and I'm still feeling like I can't get it all done, I was like, girl, where's that wind you had in your 20s?
Right. And did it well.
Right. I was like, sleep wasn't even a factor back then. What happened to that?
I know, but you can draw on it, I'm sure. Like you say,
Yeah.
when you're feeling like you just can't go on any longer.
Yeah,
Or
right. Because you know you can. Yeah, like once you've done it, you're like, okay, this can be done. This can be done.
So back then, what review course did you use and what factored into that decision? Price, reputation, or was there some convenience factor?
It was probably a combination of those things. I used Becker.
Okay.
I feel like now if I were to take it like starting today, like I may or may not use Becker. I know there's like a couple of other study courses that have come out and have been popular since then. But at that time, Becker was by far like the most popular review course. And I had the mindset like, look, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. Like I'm not trying to save $40 and take the next course so that I can I'm studying, I'm gonna get the best material that's out there. And then I had also heard a couple things about other courses that I didn't care for, but I will say, like I said, if I took it again today, like there are other courses that people have taken and they have been successful. So Becker was just my choice.
Gotcha. Okay. How long was your CPA exam journey? Did you do it within 18 months when you started out, you started passing them, or was it?
Well, yeah,
like
it was
5 years. How did you stop and start along the way?
I started studying for financial reporting. And then I stopped studying for maybe 3 months. And then, so when I started back studying, like I really had to start over studying again. But once I sat down for the first exam, I did complete the next 3 within that 18 months, probably less than that. I think I want to say probably 12 months was probably
your whole journey?
Maybe 14, but definitely less than 18. Yeah.
Okay, well, that sounds like you must have passed a couple of sections first time out, or was it all 4 of them? Just go to blow us out the water. So how
no, and it is not to blow anyone out of the water, because I feel like as many times as you need to take it, that's how many times you need to take it. I passed all mine the first time, but I will say not all with flying colors. So did better on some than others. There's definitely a couple that I passed, and I was like, "Oh, girl, like 2 more points, so you would have been sitting down."
75 is a 75, right?
2 more points would have been that. But you know what? Someone told me like, you need a 75. Like anything you get over that, that's irrelevant. You need the 75. So I did pass all 4 parts the first try, but
congratulations. Wait, I just want to tip my hat to you. Congratulations. That is awesome.
Thank you. But I feel like so many of my peers have a different story, and so many of my peers took it a bunch of times over a course of like several years. And I mean, I feel like we got there a little bit different, but I feel like our end journey is the same. And I feel like everyone drew from those experiences. Like, I don't even know if my peers that took it a bunch of times, like, regret that. Like, I feel like it kind of motivated them to maximize it when they got it. So.
And it's truly a learning experience and character building if you got to find something positive in those retakes.
I mean, I would have considered this that a period of adversity for sure.
Yes. So did you find any section particularly difficult?
I think financial reporting for me was the hardest. I mean, it just felt like it was so much to know.
So much information.
It was so much information. I am pretty blessed with something like a photographic memory. So just in general, like just a great test taker in life, right? Like just all through school, always had, I can just, if I've seen it written down, like I can typically recollect it. But FAR was a different beast. It was like, I wasn't able to call on my memory. And I was like, wow, like it was one of the, it was a part of the test. Like you really, really, really had to like intimately understand the concepts to be able to get through it. And then, so that was the hardest for me. And that's the part of the test that I definitely recommend taking first.
Okay.
Because, you know, you do have that. And I'm not sure if it's still the same. For some reason, I got the CPA license 20 years ago. But is it an 18-month window that you have to complete all of them before the first one expires?
Yes.
Yeah. So you don't know how long it's going to take you to pass FAR. So you don't want to be, you know, pushing up on your 18 months and you pass all the other 3 and you're having to take FAR like a couple of times. And now, you know, you have credits that are starting to expire. So for that reason, if for none other, I would say get FAR out of the way, because if you can tackle that, like I feel like you can tackle the other ones. And I don't know. I mean, I feel like I've heard people say that like maybe reg was harder for them potentially, but it was definitely FAR for me.
Yeah, they're all a beast.
Right. No part of it was easy. Like there was no part. I thought audit was going to be easy, but that was a rude awakening. That was actually my lowest score. I was like, yeah, you didn't prepare for this the way that you needed to. Like you gave yourself way too much credit.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have a wake up call. When you take those exams, like, what is this? What did I get myself into?
Right. I was like, oh, audit. I mean, I understand what audit is. I was like, ooh, you don't. Okay. All right.
I've heard some stories where you have some actual auditors, people who work, that's their job. They can't pass that section. They have a hard time.
If I took it today, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure some of us would be like, oh, I don't know. I don't know how I would do. You've been working in accounting for years.
Exactly. Sometimes the academics of it is so different from the real world application of it, that I feel like the longer you've been practicing, like probably the more confused you might be.
I would agree.
Except for financial reporting. I would say financial reporting is definitely the piece of it where, you know, the application of it in the workplace is very similar to the academics of it as well. So
gotcha. Well, back to those studying days, do you have any tips, or did you have any study habits that you could say got you through the process and reason why you were able to pass each one the first time out?
Yeah, I would say, you know, like you have to commit to it. Like it can't be your side thing, you know. It has to be, obviously continue doing whatever you're doing to make income, to, you know, for your livelihood. But outside of that, like it has to be your world. Like you're gonna have to say no to some cookouts, to some clubs, to some birthday parties. And you have to just really create a schedule that you can stick to. And when you're studying for the CPA exam, like you just don't really have a lot of time to do a whole lot of other things. Like that needs to be the thing that you're doing, because it needs to be consistent, or else you're gonna fall off of it. Like if you're studying for 2 weeks and like I'm gonna take a break for a week, like you're not gonna come back to it. Like it has to be consistent. And I would say, I mean, you know, listening to the videos is what I did. Kind of not even like intently staring at the videos, but I think actually working through the problems, doing the practice test, going back, figuring out what you got wrong, why you got it wrong, and just making sure that you're actually doing the work and not just reading the material, I think is what really helped me.
Gotcha. It sounds like more importantly, developing and sticking to a schedule.
You have to. Like I just really don't know how else you would, you know, just retain that much information in that span of time, like haphazardly. Gotcha. Like, I mean, you need to figure out like how many hours a week you can dedicate to it, figure out like where you're gonna put those hours. Not every day looks the same, obviously, but like you have to put the hours in. And you have to, and I think the way Becker is set up is like, I think FAR might have been like 10 different sections. Like you have to make goals. Like I'm gonna do, you know, a section a week, or I'm gonna do a section every 2 weeks. I'm gonna test out on this section on this day. Like you have to like you gotta be strategic about it. Like it's not something that's just gonna like randomly happen.
Right.
At all.
So for those who are watching and listening, you have to go into it with a plan.
You have to go into it like you are preparing for war.
For war. You really do.
You're bunkering down. You're bunkering down.
Right. Well, that's good. And I'm glad to hear that you were able to pass each section the first time out. But did anything happen in life that came up that could have derailed you, but you may have had a good support system around you? Or were you just fortunate enough that the sky didn't fall down?
A lot of things happened in that time period. I won't drain it off for the public, but I will say just in general, you know, I had my daughter my freshman year in college, or right after my first year of undergrad. So just that alone, like, I mean, I was a single mom and working and going to school. And so I don't know that I could have done it if I didn't have a support system. Like I've always been blessed with like this just amazing group of people who just want me to succeed and will help me any way that they can. So both friends and family, like people stepped in. I would say probably where I needed help the most was definitely with my daughter. So people stepped in. I have still one of my closest girlfriends today that literally picks my daughter up from daycare every Tuesday and Thursday, took her home, bathed her, fed her, gave her dinner, because I was going to class, you know? And so just having people around you that support what it is that you're trying to do and believe in what you're trying to do is always helpful. And if you have people in your world that don't support it or are questioning you and questioning why you're doing it, or are trying to kind of get you, you know, kind of off task, like you have to just eliminate that, or at least pause it. Like, you know what, I love you, you're not helpful right now, I'm gonna come back to it, but for these 12 months, like I'm gonna have to pause you for a little bit because I'm trying to do something over here. So yeah.
Well, that's great. You had a support system, people that you could rely on to help out.
Yeah, definitely.
That's good. So back to the review course. At the time, did you pay out of pocket, or was it covered by your employer?
It was covered. I want to say the first 2 were covered because I was thinking I was going to start my career in public accounting and they just pay for all these things. But the second 2 I paid out of pocket because I told y'all I didn't like it, so I didn't stay. But the second 2 I paid out. Well, no, I think they paid for the first 2. I paid for the third, and then the fourth one actually, the company I was working for at that time paid for it. And so that's another thing that I think that people are almost kind of like scared to ask that question with their employers. It's like, if you're working somewhere, if you're working for a small or large corporation, like ask them what their policies are around reimbursing for testing fees or even reimbursing for testing materials. Because I want to say everywhere that I've worked has offered that assistance. And I think sometimes people just don't feel comfortable asking for it. In a real life example of it, one of my coworkers at Southern Company, like I really had to convince her that it was worth asking for, because she wasn't going to ask, she was going to pay for it. And she asked, and I mean, they may not have covered 100% of it, but they covered like a decent portion of it.
Gotcha. So it wasn't necessarily a company policy,
right,
or like tuition reimbursement or professional development, but if it was presented, they may say yes or no, depending on.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be a policy. I mean, if the department has it in the budget, and if they want to see you succeed, like they should invest in that, you know? So not to say obviously that every company will, and you know, that's going to vary, but a lot of places definitely will.
Yeah, they value professional development, which
exactly.
is their bottom line. If they realize it or not. Right. What about the testing fee? Although you really didn't have that issue since you didn't have any retakes so much, but were those reimbursed along the way?
They were. I think they were.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to say between my short stint in public accounting and Southern Company, I want to say that at least 75% of it was paid for. I came out of pocket for a little bit. It may have been like coming out of pocket for some of the study materials, but I'm pretty sure that they reimbursed me for any like testing related fees. If I came out of pocket, it was probably for the study materials.
Gotcha. Okay. So circling back to your professional life, and you mentioned that you worked in public accounting and at the Southern Company, and right now you're with Home Depot, and I know they're based in Atlanta, so I'm assuming you're at the headquarters.
Yeah, well, in my kitchen now, but one day I'll be back in the building, right?
Working virtually. Well, considering the day and age and the time I record this video, which is September 2020, in the middle of a global pandemic and working remotely,
a global pandemic.
How do you feel about
drive by?
How do you feel about working remotely and doing everything virtually?
You know, I don't mind it. You know, I like it. I do miss going to the office just a little bit for the interaction, but I don't think that being at home like hinders my ability to execute at all whatsoever. So going into the office would just mostly be for kind of like that office chatter, like, you know, like the water cooler talk and just being able to interact with people, because virtually that just has to be a lot more planned, you know? So I wouldn't mind going back to the office like a couple days a week, you know, when it would be safe to do so. But there's probably a trillion people that work in the Home Depot corporate office, so don't know that that's going to be a safe move in the near future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've talked about how you think that having the CPA credentials probably open some doors along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Do you, not necessarily maybe the work experience per se. Would you say that's so for your current position at Home Depot?
Yeah. I mean, when I say it's opened some doors, I think it's opened every door that I've walked through personally. I know that, you know, so I think at Southern Company, I think the fact that, I think I was still studying for my last part when I actually got hired on full time there. Mm-hmm. But I feel like everyone knew that that was my goal, and everyone knew I was like one test away from being a CPA. And so I think it had everything to do with the offer that I got. I think it had everything to do with the starting salary that I got. Okay. And then when I left to come to Home Depot, like I know for a fact I wouldn't be in my current role if I wasn't a CPA, and not because you need to be a CPA necessarily to do the work that I do, but because I joined a team that has to have like X number of CPAs and has to have X number of CISAs on their staff kind of at all times. It's just kind of an internal audit guideline. And so it was one of those things where it's like, yeah, you know, all the work you do in this role, a lot of it might not have anything to do with accounting. But as a team, we need to have someone that we can call on in the event that we do need, you know, some accounting expertise. And I will say, in business, because accounting is just such the backbone of business, that, you know, you might go into a project and you might think that you're auditing something that's operational. But at the root of it, there's going to be something accounting related that you need to understand. And so I will say that I've really enjoyed being kind of like that person who understands the operation and the business side, but also understands what you're talking about when you're talking about inventory accounting or talking about accruals. Like, I like being that person that people can kind of say, you know, hey, Quesa, what are your thoughts on this? So.
Gotcha. So do you think, I know you just said it opened the door to CPAs, but others on the team, or adding to the team, do you think you would need a CPA, the CPA credentials?
I mean, if an accounting background is what you're bringing to the team, then yes. Now, if you're bringing an engineering background to the team, if you're bringing a legal background to the team, then, you know, obviously no. When we look for IT people for the team, we're looking at CPAs, we're not looking at CPAs. But I think that when your contribution, and not just to this team in particular, but in general, I think when you're saying that your contribution to the organization or your contribution to a team is accounting expertise, it's kind of like, you know, why wouldn't you be a CPA, you know?
Oh,
like why wouldn't you have like that credential that kind of lets everyone know that you're very serious about your profession and you're very serious about, you know, the value that you add.
Gotcha. So when you got your CPA, you were at the Southern company.
Mm-hmm.
Did your salary automatically increase?
Yeah, so I think my salary 100% incorporated the fact that I was going to be a CPA in the next month.
So just coming through the door, I know you mentioned that.
It was coming through the door, yeah, because I started off with the company as an intern. And so when it was time for me to become full-time, I had gotten actually offers from probably like 3 different groups within Southern Company. And that was definitely a part of the conversation, was just making sure that what they were offering me, even though I was coming in really entry level, but making sure that my salary made sense given the fact that I was, you know, going to be credentialed. So like that was candidly a part of the conversation. It wasn't one of those things that I just hoped would happen and hope that someone would recognize. Like everybody in Southern Company knew I was studying for my CPA exam, and I was two months away from being licensed. Like everybody knew that story. And I think that when I talk to a lot of people, you know, like they'll take the exam and they'll pass the exam, or even if just want to get an MBA, you know, while you're working, and then they just expect for someone to like tap them on the shoulder and say, you know what, I heard you were taking the exam, I heard you passed, we're going to give you $10,000 more. That is not how that works. Like you have got to advocate for yourself. Like people are not going to tap you on the shoulder and just throw raises at you without you saying anything. Like you have to make that business case for yourself and talk about how what you just accomplished is going to add additional value, you know?
What was your approach? I want to follow up on that, because a lot of times I would say as Black people, we've been conditioned to think we need to just be thankful to have a job, let alone going in advocating for more money or making a case for a promotion. So speak to that.
No, so companies should be thankful to have you, and I would say, I mean, you don't just go in there and just say, you know, I'm the bomb, so pay me more. Obviously, like, I mean, you have to have some facts and some figures behind it. So I would say have a real understanding of what, you know, other professionals in your market make. Like, you know, I would say, you know, I have XYZ, you know, experience. I have XYZ credentials. I have XYZ skill sets. And based on those things, I feel like I need to make this amount of money. And there's tons of websites out there. Like I think when I was doing it, I was like very basic level, probably looking at like Glassdoor salaries. So it's like, if they're telling me that my salary range is between this number and this number, I'm asking for the top number. Worst case scenario, they come down and y'all meet somewhere in the middle. But I can't honestly say that I've never advocated for a raise or advocated for a salary increase that I didn't get. And maybe I didn't get everything I asked for, right? But I got more than what they originally offered. There's always more on the table than what they're not offering you the max. Like they're not. Like, don't let them tell you that. They're not offering you the max. And so, you know, I didn't always get exactly what I was asking for, but I got more than what they said they were going to give me. So I considered it to be a win.
Well, that's good. So where did you learn that? Or was that taught, or some training in school, or just growing up? Or did you have some people in your corner at home telling you how to go about this negotiation in the workplace? I'm so
glad that you asked that, because I was going to be so upset with myself if we ended this interview and I did not talk about NABA. Okay. So no, it definitely wasn't something that I learned at home, and it's not something that most of us in our community are going to learn at home, right? So when I discovered NABA, and I discovered NABA in my mind late, because I wish I would have known about it when I was like a freshman in college, but I want to say I discovered NABA like my junior year, maybe. And I just started going to the events. I'm not gonna lie, I originally joined because I was like, I need to get a job. Like I need to figure out how I'm going to get employed after this school situation is over. But
you heard about it on campus. Don't mean to interrupt you, but you heard about NABA, like the student chapter on campus.
Yeah, as a student. So doing as a student, and I was going to all these events, and then you just meet people. And NABA, it's like everyone's goal is to make your career journey successful. And so there's just like being like at that, what was I, like junior in college, didn't really know anything about anything, honestly. And just having all these professionals around you, like VP level, director level, senior manager level people around you, just giving you all these tips. And I can remember going to a student conference and there was like this little seminar on like all the things I wish I would have known was the topic. And that was one of the things that they said they wish they would have known. It was like they wish they would have known that they didn't have to accept the first offer. And I was like, well, now that you didn't know it, I do know it now. And so, you know, but I got so many gems from NABA, just so many gems, but so many great people. So can't talk highly enough about the organization. Okay. For those of you guys who do not know, NABA is the National Association of Black Accountants. It's a national organization. We have over 50 professional chapters across the US. I'm the immediate past president of the Atlanta chapter, did that role for about 3 years. And like I said, was introduced to it as a student. And I would say between NABA and the CPA, like I just felt like I was so well set up for success in the field. So yeah.
And you maintain your memberships since your college days.
Yes. So not gonna lie, I was president for a long time. 3 years is a long time to be president of NABA Atlanta chapter. So you know, I'm probably not as super active and involved as I was when I was president, because I did take a little mental respite, but you know, definitely still maintain the membership. There's still nothing that, you know, NABA could ask me to do that I would say no to, you know. So, and I would, you know, continue to promote it. We're actually planning to do a NABA Home Depot event in a couple months to help recruit for my team. So, I mean, I'm always going to promote NABA everywhere that I go because they were just extremely helpful, to me.
Well, that's good. Well, as a member, a general member of the Atlanta chapter, thank you for your leadership. Thank you. Past your term. Thank you very much.
If I wasn't in NABA, we would never have this interview. So many great things.
Right. So do you think, right back to professional life, do you think your salary is in line with professional standards and your peers, what you're earning right now?
I do.
Or above?
I think maybe a little bit more but I think that's only because I advocate for it.
I was about to say because
I advocate for it. I don't think that it's because, you know, people are just like, oh, let's pay plus a whole bunch. No, I think it's because I say, well, you said A, well, I say C, and maybe we'll meet at B. So, you know, salary is one of those things that everybody is like real hush about, you know, like nobody really ever talks about it, even in like your close friend group, where I'm just like blurting out numbers and everybody's like, yeah, I just make around this amount. And I was like, God, I know you since 9th grade. Like, how much money you make? Stop playing with me.
And that's one of the things I like about you in one of our first conversations, how you were telling me you were part of this network, a group of professionals where you share salary information. And
how else would you know
how to negotiate going into job
offers?
How
you know how much money you're supposed to make if you don't know what everybody else is making?
It makes perfect sense to me. I'm very transparent.
I am. You know what? Even just recently, we were recently talking about who we were going to promote to like the next level on our team. And one of the folks that were kind of a part of that conversation, they were like, well, you know, I don't know if I want to be a manager on this team or not. You know, I don't know if the salary would be right. And I said, well, I make this much. So if you ask for that, you should be good. I'm like, is this number what you were expecting? Did you want it higher, lower? Like, what are your thoughts? And they were just looking at me like, you just gonna tell me your salary?
They couldn't believe you shared that, huh?
I mean, I don't make millions, so I'm not worried about nobody coming over here trying to, you know, do nothing to me.
Going to work every day like everybody else.
I work like everybody else. So, I mean, I'm not worried about being kidnapped for ransom or nothing. So it's cool.
So where do you see yourself going with the CPA, your career overall in accounting?
That is such a good question.
Staying in corporate America? Or you have any thoughts about jumping over the government or entrepreneurship or going academics? Or are you still just getting started?
I feel like I can't say I'm getting started anymore because in my mind, I'm like, just starting my career, but I've actually been doing it for a little bit. So I'm gonna have to figure out a new story. But, you know, I I don't mind corporate America. I think there's definitely a faction of people that are like very anti
Yeah.
corporate America. For me, I've always looked at it as like there's just so much to learn. There's so many resources. Just understanding how large corporations work is just so valuable if you ever do want to venture out into your own thing. So I wouldn't mind staying and kind of seeing where that led. I'm all about having diverse representation in leadership. So if there's any way that I could help, push that along, I'm here for it. At heart, I'm really a philanthropist, and so that's why I spent so long leading the NAB Atlanta chapter. So I might do something philanthropic. My goal or dream would be to lead a not-for-profit with my daughter at some point. So I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
I'm kind of jealous of a lot of my friends who are like are CPAs that have their own firms.
Yeah.
They're just always like working and traveling all over the place and all over the world, and they just seem to be having such a carefree life, midday riding their bikes on Instagram and stuff. So I don't know.
Shots, right?
Right, just living their whole best life. It's another reason why I encourage you guys to get your CPA so that you can be out here living your best life. But yeah, I don't know. If I gave you an answer, it would be like a lie.
Not quite sure. Well, how did you end up becoming a CPA, even going that route after you said you majored in finance and accounting? At that point in undergrad, did you know CPA was the end goal back in undergrad?
I think so. And I feel like when I made that decision, I wasn't even super sold that accounting was the end goal. But it was more so like, if I want accounting to be an option, like just, it's kind of like I said before, like if you, I don't know, I feel like, you go to law school, you get the law degree, and then you pass the bar, And so I feel like it's very similar with accounting. It's like, to me, I just wanted to have the highest credential, like in my chosen field. Like if I would have decided to go, further with the on the finance route, like, I may have decided to be a CFA. If I was in IT, I'd probably be a CISA. So to me, it's really less about the CPA license specifically and more about just making sure that you stand out in your field, whatever that field is. So that way people don't have any reason to tell you no. People don't have any reason to look you over. And especially for us, hopefully things change soon. With everything that's going on, I do feel like companies are now kind of like scrambling, trying to figure out how they can, put us in different places and, make their representation look better. So hopefully things change. But I would say traditionally, historically for us, we do have to work a little bit harder, to get to where we're trying to go. And so it's one of those things where it's like, just don't give them any reasons for when you come up in conversation about a promotion to question it. It's like, oh yeah, like why wouldn't we say yes to this person? So that's why I chose to do it. And I feel like that's been very beneficial for me. So.
Well, to continue along the line of question, how did you know about being a certified public accountant? Because I find a lot of times in the Black community, some people don't even know what a CPA is or have never met one anyway. So how did you know, okay, CPA is a credential to pursue? When were you exposed to that career field or that potential, I guess, the sky's the limit, the premier credential in the accounting field?
NABA told me. Like NABA told me what a CPA license was. NABA told me what the difference between industry accounting and public accounting was. NABA told me that there was sports accounting and forensic accounting. Like NABA gave me it. You know what? So my first degree that I got at undergrad was actually in finance. I was also majoring in accounting and knew I was going to get the accounting degree, but really, like I said, didn't really have the inkling to go into accounting. But it was more so like, okay, if I take like 5 more classes, I can also have an accounting degree. So I was just like, let's do it. Let's go. We've already paid the money. Let's make it happen. NABA is what really made me kind of like pivot and focus more on like what the like accounting specific opportunities were. And so, once I kind of had convinced myself that I wanted to go into public accounting, once you start down that track, then that's really a CPA track. You know, there's only so far you can go in public accounting without being a CPA. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go public accounting. I'm obviously going to be a CPA. Now the journey took many twists and turns after that, but that's really what kind of, you know, initiated it.
That's when you became aware of it, and
Yep.
to take you career-wise was through NABLA, the student chapter.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's something that I grew up thinking about, like even to this day, like, you know, my family was very proud of me when I passed CPA exam. Like they were happy because I was happy, but nobody in my family knows what that means. Like no one knows. Like they're just like, you excited about it, so we're excited about it, but like, what are you actually talking about right now?
Well, that speaks to us being underrepresented.
Yep.
What are your thoughts about increasing the numbers? Because we're, as they say, you can't even calculate it, so they say less than 1% because it's like 0.00. So you say, well, less than 1%, approximately 5,000 out of 650,000 CPAs in the United States. What can we do to increase that number and expose us to it early on?
Yeah, that surprised me, but didn't surprise me. I definitely felt like there were more. I really did. But the reason why it doesn't surprise me is because a lot of what we do in our adult life has so much to do with like how we were raised, what we were exposed to, what we can, like what we normalize.
Right.
And so, like I said, like no one in my family knows what the significance of having a CPA license. And so it wasn't until I met other like-minded people to share that with me, other like-minded that look like me to share that with me. So I think a part of the exposure is just joining organizations that are focused on accounting. You know, obviously I have a hard bias towards NABA, right? But there's also like the Georgia Society of CPAs. There's IA, there's a ton of other organizations that support getting credentialed and provide support in those ways. And I would say that's probably the biggest thing, because I do think we have to work just a little bit harder for it, because I also think that other communities don't necessarily have the same obstacles that we have, don't have the same just life events, life stressors that we have. I think one of the things that reminded me of like those like low, what do they call them? Like I call them like low grade murmurs. Like it's stress. You don't view it as stress on a daily basis because you're very accustomed to it, but it's like low grade stress. But even with everything that's going on with like all of this, the social civil unrest, is just like being Black in America is a challenge by itself. Like I don't care what anyone says. Like it's just, it's its own challenge. There's just a weight that you carry around every day that just other people don't carry, you know? And so I do think that when we're trying to kind of like really bunker down and focus on certain things, that it does require a little bit more, because I do think that we have a little bit more of like that low grade stress just kind of always playing in the background. So we have to support each other.
Just by virtue of waking up.
By virtue of waking up, and you don't even realize it. It's like you don't even realize it until like someone else says something about it. And I remember like when the George Floyd situation happened, one of my white leaders reached out and was like, you know, are you okay? Like, do you need to take time off? Like, how are you processing? And I was like, are y'all about to start offering me time off every time this happens? Because do you really want to set this precedent?
Right.
You know, like, do you really want to do that? But it was just like, at that moment, I realized like, I'm processing it the way that I always process it. Like you get up and you keep moving, because unfortunately that is just the reality of the state that we're in. And so, you know, you mourn people, because every time it happens, you see your brother, you see your cousin, your dad, your uncle, and you feel terrible about it, and it's a weight, and you hope that it's going to change, and then it doesn't change, and then you keep pushing.
You just
keep pushing.
Right, which is unfortunate.
It is extremely unfortunate.
Normalize it in a sense.
It's extremely unfortunate.
Right. So, do you think having a mentor is important, or how we go about, those of us who are CPAs, giving back or becoming mentors? Or do you have someone now that you can think back on, if it was even through NABA, that was a mentor along the way?
Yeah, I think having a mentor is definitely important. And even if someone isn't your mentor, even if someone isn't providing you guidance in any particular way, I think just having someone who holds you accountable for the things that you say, things that you say you're going to do. I don't know that I've ever had a formal mentor. I've definitely had many people that I've met along the way that have inspired me, and many people that I have called on and asked questions around, like, here's my situation, how do I, navigate this? Like, how should I go? If I had to say that one person that probably comes to mind, her name is Nicole, and she was actually the vice president of the NAB Atlanta chapter when I was one of the directors on the board. Okay. And she was the first person that told me that I needed to fix my face when I was talking to people. We would be in like a room of 10 people and someone would say something I didn't like, and she would text me and be like, you need to fix your face. Okay. And I was like, what's wrong with my face? It's just like, whatever you're feeling is all over your face. That's when I didn't even realize that was like how I operated until she told me. So from then on, I went to her for all things. I'm like, even when I was making the decision if I was going to switch from Southern Company to Home Depot, I called her and I was like, here's what they're offering. Here's what the position looks like. Like, what are your thoughts? Like, she's giving me some really sound advice along the way. But so have a lot of people, honestly,
So what can we do, those who have gone through this journey, been successful, have CPA behind our name? What can we do for those individuals who are students or maybe mid-career, just never went to the highest level? They may be staff accountants or bookkeepers, but just never decided to go pursue the CPA, or they had other issues and, like you say, life stressors going on where they just felt like they don't have time or don't have the support. What can we do to help them so we can increase the pass rates? Because I'll say this back to the statistics, even though we're less than 1%, there's also a statistic about us being 9% overall of the profession, like tax preparers, accountants, but we don't have those 3 letters, don't have the credentials. What can we do? They start and stop. What should we do that have the credentials? What can we do to support them?
I think one of the things that we need to do is we need to stop, like we just need to be candid and give real feedback to people. And it's so interesting that you asked that, because that's like an off the top answer, because I'll say even I have some friends that have accounting degrees and they've been talking about being a CPA for the longs, and they'll start studying and I'll be like, oh my gosh, great, I'm so excited, and they'll stop and I'll be like, okay, well, you'll get back into it. Like, I think we have to be that person that says, like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And if you're in accounting and you don't have any desire to be a CPA, that's one thing. Like, I'm not trying to convince you to want to be a CPA, right? But if you're someone in accounting and you've been tossing back and forth the idea of being a CPA for 2, 3, 4 years, like, I feel like we can do a better job being that person that's just hold people accountable. Like, like, do you really want to be a CPA? Like, why are you not making this happen? Why are you just talking about it? And I think
be about it.
Well, talk about it. You have to be.
That's what I want these videos to be.
Yes, you gotta tell them. And I haven't told my friends, so if they see this video, they're gonna be like, "So you're gonna tell us on this YouTube video?" But yeah, I mean, they talk about it, and it's like
conversation y'all just had. We're talking about it.
We're talking about it. Like, you just have to do it, and it's especially people that have, I won't call it dreams, but people who want to have like their own firm, or people who just truly love practicing accounting and like want to be like the person that like helps the small business do XYZ. It's just like, just get the CPA license so that everybody know that you're about what you say you're about, and just like stop playing. Just sit down, bunker down, and just make it happen. I think the other thing that we need to do, and all of us around being honest and being candid, is in the workplace. If you're in a position where let's just say you're a manager, senior manager of a team, and you know that the reason that person X is not getting promoted is because they're not a CPA, but you're sugarcoating that, don't sugarcoat that. Say that part of the reason that you're not getting this promotion is because you are not credentialed.
Okay. Just be honest.
And at that point, that person might say, I don't have any desire to be credentialed, so maybe I need to go a different direction, or maybe I need to be content with where I'm at. Or they might make the decision to say, I want to do it. I mean, I've had this conversation with people where I'm like, if you don't want to be a CPA, I don't know where you're going to go here. A million opportunities exist, right? But for this specific opportunity, they're looking for this. So to fit this role, like, that's what you're going to need to do.
Oh, well, thank you for your honesty.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, final question, and then you can close with whatever thoughts, advice, which you'd like to share. But the final question is, what does having CPA behind your name mean to you?
I think for me, it just means that I am a professional in my field. For me, one of the things it does is, like, I never really fear, like, not even unemployment, but I feel like the value that I add goes so far beyond, like, being an employee on, like, someone's roster, because I'm like, I have a skill set, like, I have a knowledge set that a lot of people don't have, and I have services that I could provide, so I feel like I'm never going to be at the mercy of, someone else to employ me. So I've never been nervous. Like, even when I left Southern Company, I left there and, like, I didn't have a job offer. I just knew I was done there. Like, I know I'm done here, and I know I'll find something else. So let me just, I think I went to Greece and Italy for, a few weeks, and just, like, let me just I started doing CrossFit professionally.
Okay.
Professionally, that just meant I went a lot. That's all that means. But yeah, so for me, it's just like I'm never pressed for any particular job, because I know I have a skill set that people need,
That goes across the board.
It goes across the board. Like,
they'll need to the end of time.
I mean, I don't know the numbers, but I mean, I don't know how much CPAs were impacted by COVID. I know that there are some accounting professionals that were impacted, and definitely a lot of people that provide more kind of like risk, like advisory type services, because companies are just cutting back on that. But it doesn't matter if there's a global pandemic. Like, you're not firing your external auditors.
Right.
That's not happening, So you still need an accountant. Like, business still gotta run.
True. There's some form of job security there.
Yeah.
Well, in closing, any thoughts or advice you would like to leave us with?
If I had to leave with some closing thoughts, it would obviously be join NABA. If you haven't. Join NABA. I would say, make the decision about whether or not you're going to be serious about your pursuit of becoming a CPA. Because if you're not going to be serious about it, you need to just remove it from your mind as, like, one of those things that you think about every 3 months, and then just either be serious about it or just, move forward in some other direction. And then I would say, always advocate for yourself in the workplace. And always know that having the credentials of the profession that you have chosen to be in is always going to open doors, regardless of how much you use that actual credential and whatever your day-to-day is. It's always going to open doors. CPA licenses open doors, and that's just what that is.
It's so true. Well, thank you, Ms. Quesa Lowe, for taking time out of your schedule to drop some gems. I hope you enjoyed the interview, but she said, be your own advocate. Don't be afraid to negotiate. Know your worth. Go and ask for it. And also, quit talking about it and be about it. That's what I got out of it. So thank you. But before I end, and remember, check out other videos. And also, as always, as I conclude, remember whose you are and who you are. And there's no time like the present.